Well, Richard Brooke, my friend, I'm so glad to connect one more time on Zoom at least. And we've had some good times over a lot of years. I guess a couple of us been leaders in this you've been in this 40 plus years, I know, isn't it?
Going on 48.
48. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Does that
Uh,
date me?
just a little bit. Well, next month, April, is my 49th anniversary, so we're contemporaries.
We are.
Wow. Well, anyway, just to kick this off, one of my very favorite thoughts is this idea that profoundly changed me in my 20s is where you will be in 5 years or 10 or whenever. Where you will be is the books you read, the people you associate with, and the things that you listen to. And all through my history of working with this company, one of the things I've loved being involved in this is just the personal development. And Jim Rohn says it so well that for things to get better, you got to get better. And when you change, everything will change for you. And one of the quickest ways to do that is change your environment. And those things are, wow, the people you associate with, the books that you read, you can associate with people that are long gone by listening to what they say and reading their books. And this is something I bumped into a lot of years ago. And then, oh, I was really captivated by this, an earlier version, Mach 2 with your hair on fire. And it's fun to be excited about something and just go out there and get better and better. I think the only real way that we can truly be happy is when we're in the process of accomplishment. And it's just thrilling to just think, okay, right here and now, this moment, I'm the happiest I've ever been. I'm in my A game because I'm still reading, I'm still working and progressing. And so, Richard, tell us about the new book and maybe let's just start with the basics. Let's say nobody has ever met you before and you're going to say some things that will change their life forever. What would that be?
Well, that's a tall order, usually reserved for the end of the session, leave them with something life changing. Well, I'll tell you briefly my story. Briefly, I have been a full time networker now for 47 years. In May, I'll be beginning my 48th. And I used to work in a chicken plant a long time ago. And the life changing part, maybe for all of you out there, is seems like a lot of us, not maybe not all of us, but a lot of us have a chicken plant in our lives. Something maybe we're kind of stuck in. Maybe we're okay being stuck there, but it's not really getting us everything we want out of life, at least economically or community wise, personal development wise, growth wise, relationships. The ironic thing about me working in the chicken plant is I actually loved it. I really loved the chicken plant. Don't ask me why. I just did. And I had my whole life mapped out. I was going to be there I'd been there 4 years and I was going to be there for the next 36 years. And I had all these role models that, had already retired 40 years at the chicken plant. This is a very old, family owned, largest chicken processing plant in the world here in California. And so I had my whole life mapped out and I was very excited about it. And then one day, the company hired this new CEO who had, of all the bizarre things in the world, a master's degree in poultry husbandry. I don't know how you get that. I don't even know why you would get that as education. But so he comes in and just starts changing policies in the chicken plant. And one of his policies was you can't go any higher than you already are in management. I was kind of a low level management person without a 4-year college degree. And I never even smelled college. I barely got out of high school. I never went to college and I wasn't going to college. That kind of changed my whole life. And a friend of mine was asking me to take a look at this opportunity. And I was blowing him off, telling him, no, 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 not interested. He was saying, no, I was making like $1,200 a month, working 60 hours a week. And he said, you can make $5,000 a month part time. And I said, no, 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 I'm not interested in that. And you know what? I actually wasn't. Weird, right? It's just all comfort zone stuff, right? I was very comfortable in my little zone of $1,200 a month, working my butt off in a chicken plant with a smock and rubber boots. And the whole idea of making money in business it just freaked me out. I didn't want anything to do with it, primarily because I just would feel like a fish out of water in that environment. But Earl Tooker comes along and life changes, right? So I just happened to see my friend a few months later, and he showed me again what it was all about. And I looked at it, didn't make any sense. Most bizarre thing I'd ever seen. I thought if I was going to make money with a product, then how much money I made would be directly tied to how much product I sold. And he's showing me this thing about you get 5 and they get 5 and they get 5 and they get 5. I'd never heard of Amway. I'd never heard of a pyramid scheme. I'd never heard of any of that stuff. And I'd never heard of compounding. I didn't go to economics or whatever it was. I didn't understand any of that stuff. I wasn't stupid. I just was raised on a ranch and worked at a chicken plant. I just studied what he was showing me over and over and over again, went to a lot of meetings, and it's not like I understood it. I think just through spaced repetition and osmosis and not having any other options, I just signed up. And yeah, then I got in with the group and learning and all that kind of stuff. And it's still, I was a fish out of water. I was not a salesperson. I was not a people person. I wasn't outgoing. Wasn't comfortable around people. I certainly wasn't comfortable asking people for money or talking to people about making money. And so I failed miserably for a couple of years. And then I discovered one of the most extraordinary advantages of network marketing that a lot of people just miss. It's not a secret, but maybe to too many people, it's a secret. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being somebody that, is going to crush it and build a huge empire, I was like a 1. And the only reason I wasn't a 0 is I hadn't quit. And why hadn't I quit? Because I was super persistent. And no, because the idea of quitting would be like, well, I'd have to go back to the chicken plant. And there was no future at the chicken plant. And so I just stuck it out. And then one guy said, that I'd sold product to. He said, I need some more product. And so I took him some more product and we had lunch and he said, is there any money in this? And my upline was making a ton of money and people I knew were making a ton of money. And I knew the plan would produce a lot of money. So I told him it would blow his mind how much money he could make. I wasn't making any money after 2 years. He heard the blow your mind and he saw the presentation and he looked at it and he said, I can do that. And he did. And 12 months later, I was making 10 grand a month. So what's the secret? Well, in network marketing, a 1 can sponsor a 10. And you might say, well, how can a 1 attract a 10? Well, it was the product that attracted him. And all I did was show him the presentation, which anybody can do that. Ours was 5 who get 5. And everybody does $100 a month. And, that's where the revenue comes from and you make money. And he was a 10, and 10s oftentimes look at an opportunity. They look at the math, they look at the model, and they see it. They see it for what it is. They see the upside, and they have the self-esteem and the confidence to know they can do anything they want to do. So he said, I can do that. And he just went out and did it. And it's not like I didn't help him. I did help him. I knew a lot. You can't be full-time in network marketing for 2 years and not know a lot. I knew all about the product and all about the comp plan and all about the company. But what I didn't know was that I could actually make that much money. And I didn't know people that I could actually influence. He did. So a 1 sponsors a 10. Now, what happens to a 1 after they sponsor a 10? Well, that would make them an 11. And then that just gave me a great deal of confidence. And that's really the only thing missing was confidence. I knew the business cold. I just didn't have any confidence. And
I love this thought that confidence is charisma. They're very synonymous in that. And then also the best time to make a sale is right after you make a sale, or the best time to sponsor somebody is right after you sponsored somebody. And then that a leader's best friend, momentum, that starts kicking in. And so,
yeah. So how do you get confidence? Well, It seems like a catch-22, right? You'll listen to a lot of motivational speakers. They'll say, you just need to be confident, but they don't tell you how, right? So one way you can be confident is sponsor a 10 who makes you 10 grand a month. That's kind of a shortcut. The other way to be confident is study confidence, study the image, the affirmations, the personal development vision of being confident, and you can grow into confidence. And I was doing that. So I wasn't like completely in a bucket, stagnant. I was working on myself vigorously. And so the two just came together, and with that new confidence, and now I had a track record, right? So that kind of helps. And you don't have to make 10 grand a month to have a track record. A track record is you rank advance to the next position in the comp plan. That's a track record. You just sponsored 3 people. That's a track record. With a track record, it gives you a little bit better story to go to the next person and say, I can show you how to do this. So over the next 2 or 3 years, I sponsored 3 more people like him. And that's the other cool thing about our model. You don't need 500 people personally. You only need 4 or 5. Now you might have to sponsor 40 or 50 to find those 4 or 5. You might have to sponsor 100, whatever it takes. But I sponsored 4, probably sponsored 100 total. Most of them were people I met at a gas station or the mall. You know, they were probably not going to do anything. But you just keep flipping over the cards. And if you see it like a deck of cards, there's 4 aces in every deck. And if you don't allow yourself to get all out of sorts, depressed, whack job out in the head, when you turn over a 2 or a 5 or 7 or a 9 or even a king, you know, the kings or the queens and the jacks in the deck, they're the ones that go, oh yeah, this sounds great. Yeah. Yeah, Dave. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Dave, let's meet next week, Dave. You know, and then you call him. Oh yeah. Oh, well, my cat got sick next week, Dave. Tell you what, as soon as my daughter gets married and as soon as the creek rises, we're going to kill this. But you chase them around for 6 months and you can't ever get them. I'd rather have a 2 tell me no and don't ever call me again than a king. The 2 doesn't waste any of my time. The king wastes a lot of time because who you're looking for is the ace. The ace looks at it and says, yes. And the ace says, I will do this. And you tell the ace what to do, and the ace does it. That's who you're looking for. You're looking for people that have ambition and they have a very powerful relationship with their word. So when they tell you they're going to do something, they're going to meet you at Starbucks, or they're going to invite 4 people to the event, or they're going to place an order, or whatever they say they're going to do, they do it. And until you find those people, everybody else will just really be a nuisance, because people flap their gums a lot about a lot of stuff. We call it out here on the ranch, all hat, no cattle.
I'm looking back in all my years. When I meet somebody and they say, oh my goodness, I'm going to make you rich. When they say that, I think, you know what? I'll probably, in 2 weeks, I'll never see them again.
Yeah. You'll be lucky if they don't end up owing you money. Well, anyway, that's my story.
Magic in the numbers. And if you can sponsor one person, you can do it again. And if you keep doing that, make that a habit, and then that just becomes inevitable. I just love the power and the magic of the numbers.
Yeah. It is a very simple business model. It's very profound economically. It is very challenging psychologically, because we're all human and we're all emotional, and we all want to be liked, and we want people to like us, and we want to be popular. And I guess maybe one way to do that is, I don't know, go be a CPA or a doctor, a lawyer or something. Being a network marketer, not so popular. If you have not figured out how to set yourself up financially in life, I'm not talking about getting rich. I'm just talking about having financial security. It's like having food security, right? So we're all going to be okay as long as we have a quality supply of food, air, and water. And we'll be okay. But if you want to be above okay, You got to have a quality supply of income. And that doesn't have to be 10 grand a month or 50 grand a month. It could be $1,000, $1,500 a month. Just imagine how your life would be different with that kind of money that you knew was coming in every month, no matter what. And how do you know that? Well, you build a network of, you want $1,000 a month, just build a network of 100 people that love your product. And what you do is you spread that $1,000 worth of income, you're spreading it over 100 people. So you're spreading your risk out, right? So somebody gets sick or somebody gets bored or somebody quits or whatever. Everybody's always being replaced because everybody's building their team. So if you want to think about, like, if you have a team of 100, well, you probably have 3 or 4 people on your team. They have a vision and ambition of building their own team of 100. So those are the little spark plugs that are in your business that are looking to build their own 100. And as they build their own 100, your team grows to 500. So as people quit, they get replaced as long as you have leaders that are building. And how do you get leaders to build? Very simply, teach them the model. Of course, they got to fall in love with the product, authentically fall in love with the product, but then teach them the model. And that's why I wrote the book, The 4-Year Career. It was kind of my secret strategy for building. I didn't have any trouble at all having people love the product I sold. The product was awesome. It wasn't nutrition. It was a gas additive. I still use it today. 47 years later, I use it in everything I own that burns gasoline. It's not network marketing anymore, but it's a phenomenal product. I didn't have any trouble with the product. The trouble I had was people understanding this model and believing that they could actually be successful at it. So I wrote The 4-Year Career to help them understand the model, how simple it is, how profound the math is, that it's not that mysterious. You just get 4 or 5 people that love your product and show them the income option, and they get 4 or 5 people that love the product. Now you have 20 on your team, and those people get 4 or 5 people, and now you got 100. It's just how it works. And people say, oh, that doesn't work. Well, it actually works phenomenally. What doesn't work is right here. I can't do it. I want everybody to like me. I want everybody to say yes. The fact is, most people are going to say no. So those of you out there that want to build this and want to be successful, like, the number one thing you might want to wrap your head around right now is 9 out of 10 people you talk to are going to either give you the runaround, they're going to ghost you, or they're going to flat out say no. And another few percentage of people are going to maybe get started, but they're not going to do anything. You got to get your head around, most people are not going to do this. Most people are not even going to talk to you about it. Most people are going to tell you no. If you need edification from everyone you talk to about your product and your income option, you're not going to get it here. You got to go get it somewhere else. So you got to be emotionally, that's the price you pay for success here. It's not the work. There's not that much work. It's not financial risk. There's no financial risk. What do you get paid for in network marketing? Putting your ego out there and putting your emotional edification out there and having it be assaulted by people who tell you no. And if you can handle that, you can be wildly successful here. If you can't handle that, you might want to do something else. That's inspirational, isn't it, Dave?
That's where it is. You think about it, the mechanics, the day-to-day, what it is, it's just simple, so basic. The hard part is, you're right, it's the emotional, and just understanding that, okay, I've got to emotionally disconnect myself from outcome of this particular person, just a process. And so I try to teach people, including myself, that my job is to get people curious enough just to take a look.
That's
And
it.
their job is to decide what they want to do.
Yeah.
And I'm just a messenger. So I get invested in the process,
Right.
not necessarily the outcome. And if I can just keep doing that, and then realize if they say no, they can still be my friend. If you're ruffling feathers or making people mad, you're doing it wrong, because you don't have to make people mad. I always think of this in my mind. Every day we go to a restaurant and we see rejection. The waitress or the waiter comes and, would you like a cup of coffee, or would you like to look at a dessert menu?
No.
And most of the time they say, no, thank you. And I haven't seen anyone burst into tears and run out of the restaurant because of that rejection. They've been able to not take it personally. And if they can do it, I can do that too. And I just got to think, okay, they're invested in the process too. They know that, say, as an example, they have 10 people and they say, would you like to look at a dessert menu? And maybe they get 2 people out of that. And those people maybe share a dessert, and that's $10. So that would be an extra couple of bucks on the tip. And throughout the day, $2, $2, $2 might add up to maybe $10 a day. And if they're full time, $10 a day extra for saying no, 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 but sometimes yes. What would that be? Over a year, $10 extra a day. And
Yep.
that's why they do it. And that's why I do it too.
Yep. And Dave, there's very few of us, you and I, very few network marketers that, there's a lot that retire. Like I have a neighbor in Lanai. He's a very, very successful Amway distributor. In fact, his team does like $2 billion a year. All of South Korea in Amway is under him. And he's from Seattle. And the guy that built probably Ron Purrier,
Yes.
Ron Purrier? Yeah.
Very much.
Ron Purrier is second generation to him. But he only built Amway for 7 years. And for the last 25 years, he's been on Lanai, fully retired. That's all he does. He's just play golf and play pickleball and play tennis. He doesn't work the business anymore. Why not? I don't know. But you and I, we've found a way to do it that doesn't burn us out, and it doesn't burn our friends out or the people that we meet out, because we're not so righteous or so desperate to need everyone to say yes or expect everyone to say yes, so that we start kind of operating out of, you should use this product and you should build a business and you should make more money and you should drive a nicer car and you should retire earlier. And when you start shooting on people, they don't want to talk to you anymore. But if you'll just, as you said, invite people to take a look and have that's your only job. Just create curiosity and ask people if they want to look. And then their job is to decide, this time in my life, this day that you asked me to look at this, the priorities in my life, my family, my health, my job, my ambitions, everything that's going on in my life, I get to decide whether your product and your deal is a fit for me today. I get to decide that. You don't get to decide that. And if we'll just respect that and just have it be okay and people say it in a lot of frustrating ways. I don't like sales, or that's too expensive, or I don't have time, right? Why do they do that? People are not necessarily comfortable saying no. People don't tell the truth either, right? They don't say, Dave, the answer is no. And the reason is that these are the top 10 priorities in my life. This is where I want to spend my time and my energy and my passion. And that product, yeah, I'm sure it works. I'm sure it's cool. And that whole income thing, whatever, but it's not in my top 10 priorities. And I'm not going to reorganize my priorities today. The answer is no. They don't say that. They say, I can't sell. I don't like to sell. I don't want to make money on my friends. They make up all kinds of weird stuff. Just let it all go. You don't argue with people. Probably the worst thing that ever happened to network marketing is overcoming objections and closing people. How about just let people's objections be their truth, and instead of closing them, open them? How do you open them? People say no, say, okay, I hear you. I get it. No argument from me. And the great thing about that is you can still talk to them again. They feel safe around you. They don't feel like they're going to get badgered. And one of the things you and I have learned, Dave, is no may mean no from that prospect right now, but it actually, in the universe and in the time universe, what it actually means is not now. Because if you like me and we're okay, I might be able to ask you again in 6 months. And life changes, right? My sponsor asked me before Earl Tooker changed the policy at Foster Farms. And I said 3 times, no, absolutely not. No, NO, and don't ask me again. And I meant it. And a month later, I signed up. Why? Things change. So if you keep relationships intact and listen to people and honor people and ask them questions instead of telling them what to do, play the long game. You could end up sponsoring half the people that tell you no over the next 5 years. But if you badger them, tell them what they should do or argue with them about, I used to tell people that they say, I don't have time. I said, oh, do you work about 8 hours a day? Yeah. Well, do you sleep about 8 hours a day? Yeah. Well, you got 72 hours a week free time. What are you doing with it? Right? That's true. Or you could say, you know, the average adult watches 4.5 hours of TV a day. How much do you watch? That's all true, but it's not going to enroll anybody. I thought if I could win the argument that I would win the enrollment, but that's like winning the battle and losing the war.
I've heard this statement that Samson slew thousands of Philistines with the jawbone of an ass, and every day countless sales are lost by that same instrument.
Hey, do you like card tricks?
Sure.
No, I haven't. I just happened to find this in the closet this morning, and I haven't looked at this in, I don't know, maybe 2-3 years. I'm just going to fan it to make sure it's not like it has some shuffle to it. It does. Cut the deck. So this is what building a business in network marketing is like. There's 2 different ways to do it. Every time I flip over a card, that's you asking somebody if they'll buy your product or look at your business. And the card value, I want you to equate to their response. So if there are 2, the response is no, or probably even worse than no, they don't even reply, right? You send them a text and they don't reply, they ghost you. And those are worse than a 2 because you're like, oh, they don't like me, or why didn't they reply? And you spend a whole lot of time wondering, right? But people that tell you no, you don't have to wonder, save you a lot of time. So what we're looking for are the aces. The aces say yes, and they do what they say. Everybody else says no. And what I want you to do is I want you to track how most people, maybe you in the audience there, emotionally the response to the card you flip over. And then I want to show you an alternative response. So you probably heard that most people that join network marketing quit. Why do they quit? This. So if your expectation is that everybody needs to say yes, or I'm not a good person, I'm not doing the right thing, you won't last long. So card number 1, this is your best friend. This is somebody you met at the bus stop. This is somebody you saw on social media. It doesn't matter where they are, but you ask them to take a look, or you start running your mouth about your product and whatever. And their response is 7. See that? Now, what is a 7? I would call a 7 a polite no. No interest at all, no. Okay, so your first person you talk to tells you no. Now, here's what happens to almost every network marketer. Their energy may start high. They look at the presentation, they love the product, they see some goals, so their energy's up here. So they talk to their first person says no. Energy after first no? But because they're ambitious and hardworking, and their Dave tells them, hey, you got to talk to people every day. I go, oh, okay. So they go talk to somebody else. It's an 8. That's also a polite no. Energy level? So then, because Dave tells them you got to talk to people every day, they go talk to somebody else. Oh, a Jack. Now, what's Jack says, that sounds interesting. Well, gee, I don't know. Yeah. Let me see. I'm kind of interested in, I forget what your product is, Dave, but maybe it's some kind of, what is your product?
Our big thing is systemic detox. So heavy metals, all these bad things that are out there.
Yeah.
Take these.
Yeah. So you get somebody who says, oh, yeah, systemic detox. Yeah, I'm into that. Yeah, I know all about that. Yeah. What do you got? How's yours work? Right. So they're like, yeah. Ooh, yeah. But the problem is with a Jack, 4 weeks later, they're still like, yeah, ooh, yeah, systemic, yeah, detox, yeah. They don't ever do anything, right? They just waste your time. They're a Jack. They're not an ace. So, but my energy level's up a little bit because I thought I got one, right? I got a nibble. So, boom. Now, like you said, the best time to sponsor somebody else is after you sponsor somebody, right? So number 4 says yes, and they join. That doesn't necessarily mean they're a leader building a team 4 years from now, right? Because once people join, it's kind of like you reshuffle the deck and start all over. Everybody that joins, you flip a card over, and that kind of indicates their performance in building. There's only about 1 out of 10 or 15 people that join actually go build something. But the first sort is you're looking for these people because these people look at your product, they look at your income option, they say yes, they get in, they do it. Now, when you sponsor an ace in the 4th person you ask, you're on top of the world. So now what are you doing? Flipping over cards. You got a king. Unfortunately, king keeps you up because you think the king's going to get in, but 6 weeks later, they're still not in. You just talk to a 5. You blow right through a 5 right now because you just sponsored an ace, right? Then you talk to a 10, and 10's only okay, but no. And then a king again, waste another 6 weeks with a king. And then a queen, you waste 5 weeks with a queen. And then a 6, oh, that's kind of a bummer. Oh, and then a 7, and then a 7, and then a 6, and then a 6. And you know what's happened to you right about now? You're like thinking, well, I'm on a real dry roll here. Was I like a one and done? Did I get the only person that's ever going to do this? Hey, Dave, I've talked to a lot of people in the last 3 or 4 weeks, and nobody wants to do this. And this isn't feeling very good. And I sponsored 4 weeks ago. They haven't done anything yet. And they're out. Now they're really out. Now they're out again. Now they're completely out. Now they're 6 feet under. Now they're 10 feet under. Here's how you're successful. So audience, how many aces are there in a deck? I'm kind of shuffling these. There's 4 aces in a deck. You know that for absolutely sure. As soon as it's not kind of weird game deck, it's just a poker deck. It's a simple card deck. And it's not a trick question. How many aces are there in a deck? There's 4. We know that. Everybody knows that, right? As long as it wasn't a trick question and it wasn't a weird deck, would you bet your house that there's 4 aces in every legitimate deck of cards? Yes, you would. Why? Because you know there's 4 aces in every deck. Here's what Dave and I know. There's about 4 aces in every 50 or 60 people you talk to. It's not as precise as a deck of cards, but it's pretty solid. How do we know that? Well, because we've talked to 5,000 or 6,000 people and we just have the numbers, right? We just know. You, see how many, 121 of you out there, you said yes. You not only said yes, but when we reshuffled the deck, you turned out to be an ace of the ones that enrolled because you're still building. I don't know how successful you are, but I know you're an ace or you wouldn't be on this call this morning. So aces are out there. Here's how you win. Here's the psychology. Here's the mindset that has you win. If you know that some of the people, about 1 out of 10 or 15 people I talk to are going to say yes, if you know that, and you let go of the bizarre expectation that everybody's supposed to say yes, and you grab the truth that 1 out of 10 or 15 will say yes, then here's how you go through the deck of cards. Well, I just flipped over a 3, which makes me a tiny bit closer to my ace, doesn't it, Dave?
Yes.
So instead of being a little bit down, did we just lose my camera?
There we go.
Instead of being a little bit down, I'm actually a little more up. Why? Because I'm closer to the ace. How do I know I'm closer to the ace? Because I just flipped over a 3. There's a deuce. Dave, we're too closer to the ace. I'm like, I can hardly stand it. An 8. We're getting closer, Dave. A queen. Well, it might take me a few years to learn how to deal with a queen, but what I don't do with a queen anymore is chase them around and wait for them or believe them. Another queen, right? A 9. I've gone through like 6 people, Dave. I'm probably only about 7 or 8 away from the ace. Whoa, whoa. You warned me about these guys, Dave. You told me there's some people out there that are real jokers, right? Like it's their life mission to knock people down who have dreams and ambitions. That's their life purpose. Like be so negative, they walk into a dark room and they develop. We've all seen those people. You warned me about them. So when I ask this person to look and they say, let me show you all the reasons why that's an illegal pyramid scheme and that 99% of the people are getting that. You warned me about them. So guess what? I'm still getting closer to my ace. Deuce. Who cares? I'm getting a 3, a 2, a jack. I'm so on fire. I mean, I'm likely, Dave. Don't you think I'm likely to get back-to-back aces? I mean, wouldn't you think back-to-back aces? Or man, I might get 3 and oh my gosh, there's another one of those idiots. There better be some aces in the deck. And I've only got about half the deck left, so they're going to come quicker now. I know that. This is how you win in network marketing. I know there's another ace in there somewhere, but you get the point, right? The more people you that tell you no, the closer you are to a yes. So the more people who tell you no, the more on fire you get. So when people tell you no, you're like, and they're like, you're a little weird. That's how you win. If everybody that tells you no shrinks your energy, after about 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 knows, how you're asking people to look is you wouldn't maybe want to try a detox, or might make you sick for a while. The first couple of weeks, a lot of people vomit every day because it doesn't detox, and you get all these heavy metals, and not a lot of people can't handle it. I don't know if you'd want to look. No, I don't. Or the more people who tell you no, the more on fire you can be, because boom, it's right around the corner. It's simple mindset. The people that win in network marketing expect almost everybody to say no, and so it's perfectly okay. They don't argue with them. They respect it. And they know the more people that tell them no, the closer they are to a yes. And so they just keep asking people. And the people that quit expect everybody to say yes, want everybody to like them, want everybody to agree with what they're doing, want everybody to join them. And if they don't, they're like, wah, wah, wah. And after about 8 of those, they quit. Mindset. You're all incredibly fortunate to be led by one of the great mindset coaches and leaders in our profession. It's Dave Johnson. He's all about mindset. He knows all about the product. He's not a PhD scientist in detox. Doesn't need to be. He knows all about the comp plan and all about the how-tos. He knows exactly what you need to do to build. That's all not very complicated either. You could put that all in a little book. You could put everything about the product in a little book or on a little website. You could put everything about how to build in a little book or in a little website. The part of our business that requires mastery is mindset. And you are all incredibly fortunate to be led by one of the great mindset masters in network marketing. How do we know that? Has he written all kinds of books on mindset? No. How do we know that? Well, he's been doing this for 49 years, and look at the expression on his face.
I'm not telling him to read Richard's book.
Yeah, you don't need to be an expert. Just refer people to experts.
Well, the beautiful thing is it's all about systems, and also it's about consistency over time. And so if you consistently flipped a card once a week, that's good. But what if you did it every day? Or what if you flipped 5 cards every day? And that, because we want momentum to work with us. We need things to accumulate fast enough. So
I've found this formula, Dave. I found that if you ask one person a day, you won't quit. If you ask less than one person a day, like if you ask people to look whenever you feel like it, whenever it's convenient, whenever you think about it, you probably end up quitting. Why? You're not going to enroll enough people to be satisfied with your results. And because most people are going to tell you no, well, even at your lackluster pace, the experience is not very much fun and you're not making any money. If you ask 2 people a day, you will build a little bit of a team. Might take a while, but you'll make progress. You'll probably end up enrolling like maybe 1 or 2 people a month. Not right away, but after 2 or 3 months of 2 a day every day, you'll get on the pace of enrolling 1 or 2 people a month, and you'll build a little team with that. You'll make some money. If you ask 3 or 4 people a day, every day, not whenever you feel like it, not 3 days a week, not when the weather's good, but every day, you'll end up over 3 or 4 months after you kind of fill your pipeline of possibilities, you'll end up enrolling 3 or 4 people a month every month. And if you enroll 3 or 4 people a month every month for a couple of years, in year 3, 4, and 5, your team is going to take on a life of its own. You're going to have some leaders on your team, leaders that have vision like you do, leaders that are working like you are. And some of them are going to be bigger and better than you, but they're all on your team. And so, it kind of takes a while in network marketing for those geometric progressions of customers to grow big enough for you to make the kind of money that you might be super excited about. But it all starts with your daily action. And how long does it take to ask 3 or 4 people to look at a video? Answer live.
But that's pretty much the whole thing, is have a really good interest creating thing. I always tell people, my typical thing is I talk to friends and people I already know first, and I'll just say, hey, Richard, Dave here, have you got a minute? And then essentially I say, I need your help. Would you do me a personal favor? I know you're interested in health and you're a pretty smart guy. I just watched a video with a biochemist talking about something that I believe could really change everything about health. If I send you the link, will you watch it and let me call you tomorrow and just let me know what you honestly think? Would you do that for me? And But just, that's what people do, is just use the tool.
Yeah, that's another example. It doesn't really matter how you do it. Just do it.
Every day, the best approach is the one you use.
Yeah. I don't know how to put anything in this Q&A. I don't know how to type something into it. I see people have asked questions.
You could maybe click the little thing where it says answer live if you wanted to.
Answer, no answered questions. Answer. I'd like to answer that question. Oh. Well, I'm just not very technically savvy. And I've never used Q&A on Zoom. I don't know why. Type answer. Oh, there we go. Got it. Found it.
And while you're typing that, let's see, richardbrooke.com and the 4-year career.
Richard Brooke. I just created a new website that's specific for network marketing, Dave.
Okay.
It's called richardblissbrooke.com. Or you can get it on Amazon, both Audible and print.
And the new edition is the best.
Of course. And the new edition is the best. Select all. That's so weird.
Well, it's been outstanding. I love the fundamentals, and just get really good in the fundamentals. Do what Richard said today and get your attitude right. Attitude determines your altitude. I love this thought that successful people are basically not people that, let me put it this way, anybody can be up when they're up, but successful people have learned how to be up when they're down. It's just be a thermostat instead of a thermometer. Just choose your
Very
own.
good. Yeah, somebody, Richard asked, successful using scripts on cold calls? No. Network marketing is about asking people you have a relationship with. So stick to that. And if you run out of people you know, then that's why it's also called networking, which is add to your network. How do you do that? Meet people. There's a million places to meet people. You can meet people on social media, meet people at church, meet people out in the world. But networkers, they also get in the habit of meeting people, which just starts by, saying hi. So often, we just pass by people. We never say hi. We never ask their name. We never ask them, what's up? But if you just start a conversation, get in the habit of starting conversations, you'll add to the people you know, and you'll never run out of people to ask to take a look. Sorry, I couldn't get stuff in that chat. I typed it in the answer, and it just wouldn't.
Maybe finish up just with those thoughts right there. You talk of yourself being the authentic networker, and the way I look at that is the thing we've all heard, that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And the whole answer is, boy, I'm going to go get somebody. Nobody likes to be but you can't have too many friends. And the whole thing is developing relationships, and this idea that people do business with people that they know, like, and trust. I think that's such a fundamental thing. And start with your friends, people that know you, and then get referrals. Every business loves referrals, and get really good at that. And you'll always have some relationship, some connection.
Yeah, most of the people on your team are just going to be customers. They're not going to want to sell the product. Customers are a great place of, hey, you love the product. I get you don't want to sell it, but who do you know that you could introduce me to that might be interested? And you can kind of just teach people to say, so Dave, could you maybe just initiate a text between me and your friend Mary and just introduce me and tell her how much you love the product, and I'll take it from there. And you'd be surprised if you ask people to do that, they'll do it. And, you don't abuse it. You don't ask people to do it every day, or, hey, Dave, give me 20 referrals. But if you got a referral from every customer that you have, you'd never run out of customers. You'd never run out of referrals. Just keep asking. People will give them to you. Simple business. Just keep your head straight. Follow your leader. One of the greatest networkers in the world.
Richard, this is awesome. I appreciate what you've done for us, and let's go do this. The timing's right. Market's immeasurable. This is a good time.
It is. It is a great time. It is a great time for our business. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate your friendship. I'll see you in July.
All right, let's plan on it. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.